Clouds, welcome. I'm just getting some stuff set up and some messages sent out, and we should be able to start on at 1:30 on the dot. But thank you for being here, man. I appreciate you.
Yo, what's up, man? For sure. I'm excited to get into this. Should be fun.
All right, I just finished going through my checklist. We got everything going, and yeah. So I'm not sure how many people are going to turn up today, but more or less, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. This is a space for creators by creators. This is recorded, and we will be uploading it both on Twitter and on YouTube in the future. And I will be writing an article, complimentary article, kind of about clouds and learning more about you and what you have going on. Um, but I'm going to go through some stuff that there's not a big audience here, but just for my practice, I'll be going through just kind of the motions and make sure that we've got this set up for the future. But once again, thanks for being here. This is Making Time, a space for creators by creators, where we highlight any content creator in Web3, whether they're making videos, whether they're writing threads, whether they're streaming, whether they're playing Web3 games, whatever that might be. We are here to support them. If you are in this space and you do have the time, I do please hit the button at the bottom right and drop a like, comment, retweet on the space. Anything you can to help us grow and kind of get out there in the algorithm is greatly appreciated. And if you do, please follow everyone on the stage, me, Clouds, and the Syndicate Project. We would love to have you on board in the future and grow together. But let's get that's enough for me. Let's get straight into it. Clouds, how are you doing today, my man?
Yo, what's up? I'm doing pretty well, my guy. I started off my day with some coffee. It's already 1 p.m. currently with where I am at. So, just already starting to grind and starting to figure out what to start get posting, things like that, structuring my day. But I'm doing pretty well, my guy. How are you doing?
Dude, that's good to hear. My day has been similar. I've downed 2 cups of coffee. I pumped out a bunch of news. I did a bunch of work for my project. Dude, I've been in some spaces. Dude, we've been grinding. I'm sure you know the grind. I see you around quite often, my man. But I'm glad to hear you're doing good. My first question for you is really, Clouds. I've seen you around. You've been doing the community management stuff. You've been doing your YouTube presence. But I'm really interested in what got you into Web3.
Yeah, for sure. Well, basically, before I got into Web3, I was just didn't really know nothing about markets, crypto, anything like that. Like, I'm still fairly new to this. It hasn't even touched a year yet, so I've been into this. But once I learned what an NFT was, I was actually watching a Gary Vee podcast, believe it or not. So I was watching that, and what he was saying actually spoke a lot of, it spoke a lot of truth to me about the currency currently. I started researching a little bit more of what this meant, what was a crypto, what was an NFT in general. I looked at it beyond a point of it just being an ape JPEG and things like that. So it kind of intrigued me to understand it more and understand its further utility in the future. So then, of course, the money as well brought it up. Like, people getting this much amount of money for selling a picture. So I started investigating. The money drew me in, but as well as the further development of what an NFT can actually become. So yeah, that's kind of what got me into NFTs. And then once I started jumping into Discords, I was going to jump into ETH, and then I found out Solana was like very cheap for like fees wise and the NFTs that are out. So I decided to jump into that and join servers. And once I started getting to know the people in the communities, I was like, yo, it just drove me to be constantly active in the servers with people daily, So it was just a community, the people, the further utility of the NFT, and it kind of just it's a ripple effect. You start liking one thing, you start falling into the other. So that's kind of what drew me in mostly.
Yeah, and I think that's what gets a lot of people in here. I think Gary Vee is definitely doing wonders for onboarding, right? All of these people in the community are always talking about we need to onboard more people, we need to be more accessible, but the real king of doing that is definitely Gary Vee. This dude's onboarding normal people, retail investors, and big business players, right? Like he's trying to get these lawyers, these attorneys, and other stuff like that. He's trying to convey that future, the idea of Web3. But I definitely think it's interesting that you said like you did explore a little bit of ETH, but you ended up staying with Sol because it's cheaper. It's a little bit more accessible. So what's your experience been with Sol? Like, what collection did you start with?
Oh God, man. I started jumping into random discords. I even like first jumped into the Magic Eden website, and first thing I seen was the popular page. At that time period, so it was like at $140, $135 around that time. So I was kind of looking into it. I had a couple of $100 to throw in to try to test it out, and be joining the hype of, oh yeah, I got my first NFT. So that was mainly what it was about. I was like, okay, I need to buy something just because it's an NFT and I get to say I own an NFT. So it was this one project. I joined a whole bunch of servers, but one project that I first bought into was called Horns versus Halos, and yeah, that ended up being my first experience with anything in general. Like first rug, first moderator job, first D rug, first everything, bro. I got thrown in straight into the gutters right away and figured out what the hell soul was by joining the first project. Of course, a lot of people's first projects end up becoming rugs. So that was my experience, and that's kind of what threw me into the. I even tried managing their Twitter like for the first time. Like it was only like less than a month in being to NFTs, and I was already straight into it. But I actually fell in love with it. I actually felt the joy of doing so. Like then over time started becoming more frequent that I started jumping into different projects, starting to get to know people. But that was my first that was my first entry point right there.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that your first collection or real exposure into the NFT space, you took on a bunch of different responsibilities. You said it was not only was it your first rug and D rug, it was your first time being a moderator and like running the Twitter or being engaged with the social media that way. So, what made you so interested in taking on those responsibilities so early into your Web3 career?
Yeah, well, firstly, it was the fact that these positions are paid at times. So even though it was a rug, the person who was trying to derug it would give me like 3 soul monthly, which to me was it was very very small, but it was my first time doing this. So I was like, this is kind of cool. I didn't know I can dip my toes into this, but on the side, I was already making gaming content, which that's a little bit behind what I do or what I did, but on the side, that was still kind of fun to do while jumping into NFTs. I was like, oh wow, I can just moderate with the chat, figure out how to, communicate with people better, and just try to help a project that I didn't really know too much about in itself because I was fairly new to it. And I would say I still did pretty well, like fairly well because when you're jumping into a project, you kind of get that emotional attachment to it because it's your first one, first NFT. You're like, oh, I like the artwork. So that's kind of how it was for me. That's the reason I kind of stuck with it at the beginning. Now looking back at it, of course, I would have never stayed, but it was a first for a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think whenever you go into that moderator position or the community manager position at first, it's like, dude, I would have done this anyway, so I might as well monetize it, right? I might as well make a little bit of cash on the side. So, yeah, for sure. I think that's a great way to look at it and jump in. So I know you're a community manager now for one or two, or maybe like two or three different projects. So is this where kind of you first got your inspiration from being a community manager? Was it from this first project, and then it kind of just you got the connections and stuff you needed to go further into the ecosystem, or how did you transition into the position you're in now?
Yeah, man, it was exactly that. I After that project, after a while, I started like trying to branch into other discords because I was like, if I could do this for this one, that means there's more space for other projects to jump into. So that's exactly what I did. I found more servers. I found a little bit more projects that had a cheaper entry point, and I started watching YouTube content as well, like to learn more about the space since I'm gonna be more into it. So I started watching YouTube creators at the time. Learning about what projects are upcoming. During that time, the meta was drop videos about upcoming projects because new people like myself would jump into it and probably, just watch it and subscribe to your channel. So I fed into that and I started joining projects from those type of videos. And from there, like first thing I did was, of course, chat with the people, try to understand it better. I even asked questions like, what does LFG mean? Like, what does FOMO mean? Like, I was a very new, so all these terms were very new to me, especially like what does bear market mean? What is bullish? Like that's how new I was to this. So I was asking those questions and gained a lot of experience, but as well as I even made it like known, like created takeout, like, if I'm experienced, helping out this project, becoming a moderator. I would love to gather my experience. So I would just jump straight into it, man. Like I would not trying to waste any time. And of course they'll tell me, just be more active. We're currently not looking. So that's what I did. I stayed being a Discord grinder, kind of in the chats, being nice to everybody, ended up becoming a trial mod, and then ended up becoming a full mod for that project, which my second project that I worked for was called Fearless Bulls Club. They're still hanging around in the space, which is kind of crazy. But early on in my journey, that was the second project I jumped into. I minted it, and yeah, that job was actually not paid for a while, but regardless, I still had fun going in there and being active with the community. So it started becoming more of just enjoying talking to community people and trying to branch out in a way. Just gathering those connections was pretty fun to me, and I got to say that I give that props for helping me build my connection with people and learning how to speak with people. That helped a lot, like drastically.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest advantages of working in Web3, whether that be you're as big of a role as project founder or you're as small as a role of moderator, is you really get to network deeply, right? You get these people who are engaged in the founder, engaged with the project. Then you also get the project founders connections that you might meet some way, or the community managers connections, or maybe you meet people on Twitter Space you host, and before you know it, you're far more interconnected than you ever could have been as a normal investor, right? Because as a normal investor, it is pretty difficult. You have to go to each place and maybe chat it up in the Discord and hope someone like responds to you if the Discord's not dead. Like it's definitely been it's a lot different of an experience for sure. But you did mention that you kind of started watching YouTube creators and enjoying their content and joining projects from there. So that's something that I actually don't hear about very often. I hear a lot of people get into crypto Twitter through news they heard on CNN, or Bitcoin's at $1 million, or Bored Ape, or whatever. So what was it like, or what do you think about the current state of like Web3 YouTube?
Yeah, the current state right now, I see it as people trying to recover from the bear market or the bull market that happened. A lot of content creators are struggling to. They got the feeling of, kind of blowing up and getting all this attention when the bull happened, and now that the bear is here, a lot of that the viewership and a lot of engagement just completely plummeted. So they're kind of trying to recover and trying to stay alive, I guess I can say. I'm cool with a couple of them. From the beginning, I watched some, and seeing how it is now, they're still at least dropping content. So that's what I can appreciate the most, as long as it doesn't seem scummy or scammy. So that's kind of how I see it, man. It's just people trying to stay in the bear long enough to make it to another bull.
Yeah, so that's interesting you bring that up, right? Like as we moved into the bear, and we see this not only in YouTube, we see this on Twitter, we see this basically everywhere that crypto is. There's been a lot less engagement, right? There's a lot less euphoria, less people are making money, and it's more difficult to stay alive during this bear market. So, do you think that it's these YouTube creators like their lack of viewership or engagement is purely a result of the market conditions? Or do you think maybe they didn't do something correctly or they weren't building a community correctly? Like, do you think there are any bigger issues at hand?
I believe it's both, man. Like, of course, like you said it on Twitter as well. People were into the FOMO of following these big people right away, and once you get that traction from the start, like pretty big, over time it's gonna fall out because you didn't really build up that organic following. So that's kind of what happened in both scenarios. So right now they're currently trying to build that up, I believe, and some people still stuck with them, which is really nice. But you kind of start if you start at the top, you're gonna end up coming down, throughout either of the days. So especially during this bear market. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, for sure. It's the rising tide lifts all boats, right? So in the bowl, everyone can make it, or it's a lot easier to make it. Maybe not everyone, but it's easier to make it. But in the bear, you really have to depend on that organic following, that organic growth, and really foster a community that's going to promote you. So I do know that you create Web3 YouTube content and you've been doing that for quite a while now. So what have you learned from doing that? What is your kind of experience been creating Web3 YouTube content?
Yeah, well, like I said before, I was already making content on gaming, and I feel like a lot of people who are content creators always start off doing that. So I was already doing that for quite a while, like I would say a couple of years or so. So jumping straight into NFTs and crypto, that's how I learned. I went to content. I live on YouTube, looking at TikTok. I was into the content creation space already to begin with. So jumping into Web3 content and seeing the content that's published like on YouTube already from Web3, I seen a big gap of like there's only a couple of people that I would see repetitively making content, and some people that I would see try to make content but weren't too experienced in making content in itself. So I kind of seen an opening, and I was like, you know what? Let me learn a lot more about this, and I'm gonna make a channel about this because I love making content regardless. I've had a couple of channels that I try making, some fail, some do pretty well, but I start falling out of it, and I started doing Web3 all the time and learning about it over and repetitively. So I was like, let me start making a YouTube video. Even my first YouTube video, I made a NFT channel actually, and my first video was I spent 2 weeks buying and selling NFTs. So I was like, okay, this is a perfect start to the video. And over time, I'll just escalate it to whatever I start learning over time, whether it's projects, whether it's my experience becoming a moderator, since that started becoming a big, a niche for me was people always trying to reach out. How do you become a moderator? This, since I started becoming pretty known in the moderator space, being moderating for big projects like a big bump for me was whenever I started becoming a moderator for Great Goats. We know around that time period how that was, and that was the very beginning, bro. We don't speak on that no more. But the first time I was, moderating for Great Goats, which bumped my name drastically because everybody's like, "Oh shit, you're a Great Goat mod," this and that. And not only that, I was actively chatting with people in the community, so it wasn't like I was just up there in my name. Like, no, I was getting to know these people and building that community, which I feel like I probably could have handled the whole project myself at that point. But yeah, that's kind of what got me into the content creation side, man. It's just understanding that it was pretty rare and there was only a few people doing it, less competition, especially if you're already experienced in content creation. You probably have a big how can I say it? You already have that experience to just pretty much do better than them, like in a sense.
Yeah, you have a strong advantage. I think this is like this is one of the big points that some of these other big content creators make, like Bark and some of these other guys that have a lot of experience with YouTube and short form content, right? If you have that experience of making videos, or even if it's something like writing, if you have some kind of like multimedia talent, whether that be writing or video or podcasting or whatever, you have a huge advantage over a lot of these Web3 guys because these guys are starting from scratch. Some of them are, not all of them, but some of them are. And you can start head and shoulders above them. So I did have that's an interesting segue into what I wanted to ask you about is what do you think about short form content when it comes to Web3, like stuff like TikTok and leveraging platforms like that?
Oh God, man, that's the wave nowadays. A lot of people want to see something quick, and TikTok changed that drastically. So, it carries on into Web3. So that's how I see it. If you're not creating small, short form content that's straight, snappy, and straight to the point, it's probably going to get ignored. And you got to build that audience by catching their attention, making them like your flow, and it just works out in general, man. It's a 5 star in my opinion. You have to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's earlier on there's a lot more euphoria or maybe people speculating that there could be a time where Twitter moves into the short form algorithm and things along those things like that, but who knows if that's actually going to happen, right? But so do you think that more web3 projects should be leveraging TikTok because I found that a lot of projects only have a Twitter and Discord presence, right? They don't post anything on YouTube, they don't post anything on Twitch, they don't post anything on TikTok. Do you think that's something that they should definitely be leveraging, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it'll be very unique. I don't see projects doing that as much, and I think projects literally underestimate their own content creators in their community. Like a lot of people don't leverage from their content creators that can help them market in some way, or even just help create content, edit it for them, design things for them. I just believe that they need to do that in general. Uh, if they want to make TikToks and things like that, I'm not sure how that would work out because I'm not too familiar with how crypto is on TikTok, I know it's very easy to get plenty of views, but at the same time, they do lack just gathering their own content creators in the community already. That's what I see.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the thing that's been awesome about content creation, especially in this bear, is it's really motivating for people, right? If you've stayed during the bear and you've seen people come and go, you really become aware of this new opportunity that is, oh, I could be a content creator, right? Like I can leverage my talents to be what I want to be in the space, right? Kind of be that change. So I'm a bit curious, like, how do you think other people? You had a background already in content creation, right? You did YouTube videos and so on and so forth. But how do you think other people, or what would you recommend other people do if they want to become a content creator? Like, where should they start?
I think just starting in general, bro. Like look at other content creators in the space and see how they create their content, and see if they even share some alpha on how they create their content. And just look at videos. YouTube is where I came from. It's where I learned from. It's in general where I was 24/7 of my day, learning how to create videos, learning what works, learning what doesn't work, and just watch people already doing it, learn from them, and if if they're nice enough, even ask them in the DMs. So that's all it is just reaching out and trying to just voice it, like let it be known that you want to learn about it.
Yeah, start somewhere, right? That's what a lot of these people were preaching, right? You just got to start and then start building that discipline, right? You're going to start for a period where maybe you're posting one video every 2 weeks, but at least you did one, you know? And then all of a sudden you're posting one video every 1 week, and then you're posting 2 videos a week, and then you're posting a video every day, and then before you know it, you have a new identity, right? You got past that hill, that barrier of being a content creator, and I think that's definitely a fantastic point to make, right? It's just get yourself out there and figure it out, right? Because ultimately, once you get over that hill, you're there. Like you're almost there. It's just a matter of building a system, a support system, and reaching out to people. But I'm glad you mentioned that, reaching out to people and asking them help. Like, did you have any mentors in this space that you learned a lot from?
I wouldn't say mentors. I mostly just viewed everything and tried to learn it myself, because I, of course, was the type of person who just tried it out myself. Because you're gonna hear it a lot in the space, but you gotta just do it to just see what you end up falling into. You gotta make your first video to see if you even like it. Like you're just thinking about the idea, but once you execute it, then that's when you actually find out if you actually enjoy making content, or it's just something that you thought you enjoyed. So that's kind of what I did. Is I was just strictly go straight into it, whether it's finding out and learning from how other people make their content, try it out myself. I don't like it, then we try it my way, and boom, pow, you just piece it together. Honestly, that's how I always went with it. So I didn't really have any mentorship on that aspect, which probably where I lack a lot of is just trying to connect with more in-depth content creators. So I think Web3 helped me with that a lot. Like I said, Web3 helped me connect with people more, helped me learn to speak with people more. So I have recently been like connecting with other content creators, which is pretty good. And then even spaces like this is amazing to have with other content creators as well.
For sure. Thanks for that, dude. We appreciate it. So you were saying when you got into Web3, this really helped you talk to people and get to network and so on and so forth. So I'm curious, were you a lot different of a person in kind of the normal Web2 day to day, or how are you maybe different in your Web3 personality?
Yeah, man, for sure. Like I said, I did gaming videos before. So when you're doing gaming videos and just being a gamer, you're in your room constantly. You're either just shit talking to people on Call of Duty, or you're just you're still making content and being yourself, but you don't really necessarily get to speak to people like about these things that we're speaking about right now. It's more of just talking about what games are we playing, or when are the boys hopping on. Let's make a video. Let's goof around. It was more on that aspect. So I think jumping into Web3 kind of straightened me out a little bit. Let me have a clear vision of what actually I would want to make my content on, whether it's informative, whether it's just getting to know people. Like that, I just think that was amazing. And even having to hear about these IRL events, which I ended up attending one. Like I never thought, like I don't even do that. So it was kind of wild to, like, that's how engaged I was with this Web3 stuff, man.
Yeah, what IRL event did you attend?
I ended up going to Art Basel, Miami, so that was a pretty fun experience.
Yeah, how was that? Who did you meet any creators there or what?
Yeah, well, I met a lot of people that I connect with on Spaces because that's mostly how I started getting to know people was through Twitter Spaces. So I connected with them. I was always talking to them for a long time. I didn't really go to like these bigger events. Like I didn't necessarily go to the Art Basel event itself because of just the fact that it was my first time traveling. There was so much chaos going on in Miami, like so much events left and right. Like it was just crazy. So for me just to go meet the people that I speak to, connect with them, let them know my face, let them know that I'm a real person who's here to connect further. And I believe that built a stronger connection. Like if I come back to these spaces, it's just gonna be a bigger help me out as well. Let them know like I'm a good person in general.
Yeah, it really strengthens those bonds you make in Web3, right? Because I've met a lot of my people, whether that be through Teams or Twitter Spaces, or maybe we worked on a project together. And there really is a difference in relationships between purely digital and maybe occasionally meeting someone physically or meeting them in person. So I think it's really awesome you were able to go to an event. I went to Hacker House Austin, and I was able to meet some really cool people that I still talk to today. But that was a really awesome experience for me because really it really makes you realize what Web3 is, right? It's a big, big global community, and these are real people. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I kind of lose that. I lose that sense of this is really real, and we're all here kind of building upon a central vision. So it is awesome to hear you get out there, get to meet a lot more people, get to kind of build trust with people, build those relationships. So for sure. So we talk about YouTube, we were talking about short form content, we are also talking about Twitter. Was there any other type of content creation you tried and just kind of realized it wasn't for you, or have you always been in that kind of video content creation route?
Yeah, I tried the meta of TikTok actually. So usually I would already make my YouTube videos, and once TikTok started popping off and figuring out that you have to go to TikTok if you want to get these viewerships better. So I ended up trying doing that, and I instead of making strictly TikTok videos, I would edit my videos that I've already created into TikTok form, and just edit them there, post it, short clips, easy, and it actually did pretty well, surprisingly. Like I was not expecting it. I was like, man, I don't even like TikToks. I was one of those people where like, man, just TikTok is kind of lame. Until I hopped onto it, ended up becoming addicted to it for a little bit with these short form content videos, and started even making my own. And I even had videos go to like 1 million views. So I was like, whoa, it's my first million is on TikTok. So that was already wild to me. It kind of drew me in more to it. But over time, I just like it doesn't really. I don't know. It doesn't tick with me. I prefer YouTube videos as much as it doesn't benefit me as much with the viewership. I just can't stick with TikTok as much. It's not my thing.
Dude, it's awesome to hear you were able to hit a million. That must be a crazy feeling, right? Being able to hit a million for the first time and really like just feel that, right? It's like gratification. It's like this is maybe working out. It seems like TikTok didn't end up being your cup of tea, but I'm sure that hit of dopamine, that rush of dopamine of getting that million was pretty awesome. So, do you think is content creation, or more specifically like video content creation, is that your passion, or do you have something else you're passionate about, whether that be in real life or in Web3 itself?
Well, yeah, I would say content creation has been a big part of my life because it's something that I tried pursuing for the longest. Like even when I was, very young in my teenage years in high school, I was like watching these other YouTube content creators, and I was like, bro, I want to do that. Like, and then I tried doing it, and I actually loved it doing it. And to this day, I'm still doing it in a different way. I would not expect to be making videos about JPEGs, but we move forward, and who knows what the hell I'll make content on next. But end of the day, I've always stuck with doing content. I would say, yeah, it is a passion of mine. I don't really word it that way because I don't know, like when you're in your own little circle, you don't really look at things too much on the outside perspective. Like you said, when you actually go outside and go to these events, you realize like this is real. Like holy shit, like you're out of your normal area, you're out of your workspace where you're just constantly thinking about video ideas, content creation, and you just start realizing that a little bit better. So yeah, I just found that really exciting, and I actually started realizing like holy shit, this might actually be a passion. Like I've been doing this for the longest. I mean, it's clear as day that it has to be, and I just love doing it, man. So no matter what videos it'll be on, I'm still gonna create some content.
Yeah, man, it's glad to hear you're passionate about it, right? You've you watch these creators growing up, whether that be, I don't even know. I don't know what your origin story on YouTube was, but like I grew up watching these Minecraft creators, right? Like all these Minecraft YouTubers and like OG Smosh and like some of these old YouTube guys. And I remember being like, that's so awesome. I want to create something like that. I dabbled a little bit in that, but I didn't become as passionate as you did. Go ahead.
No, yeah, bro, for sure. You nailed it. You know, these Minecraft slash COD slash GTA, you know, all of these OGs in the space. Like if you were constantly on YouTube, those were the people to look up to and kind of just try to mimic in a way, but just try to jump in there yourself, bro. Like it was huge motivation. Like I would always watch their motivational videos of them hitting a million, of them hitting 100K. Like I just thought that shit was cool. So you know, we're still going for them goals.
Yeah, and I think it's what's interesting is like as the younger generation, we're both Gen Z at this point, but as this younger generation grows and gets older and becomes like working parts of the workforce or they're entering Web3, the role models we have are very different from our parents or our grandparents or whatever, right? We look at these content creators and become inspired by them, and we want to have a story similar to theirs. So we pursued the type of content that these people were doing, and we pursued this vision that's so radically different than everything else. I think it's super interesting, and I think it ties into Web3 pretty well. So, but I love talking about this content creation stuff. I think it's fantastic, and you're giving some awesome insight on that. So thank you for everything you're mentioning. I do want to mention you mentioned you never would have thought you'd be making videos on JPEGs, and I think that's an awesome point to make because you can never connect the dots looking forward, right? You never really know what you're going to be doing next, but whenever you look back on it all makes sense, right? So whenever you started creating these videos or you started getting into your craft, where did you think you would have been? Where did you think you would end up at?
Well, you know, when you're starting something like I said, gaming, you kind of have that vision like, oh yeah, I want to be one of these top gaming channels and get to know these other gaming people and collab with them. You know, it kind of you kind of get that FOMO of just wanting to be like the content creators that you watch in your own way and just connecting with them and finally getting sort of that attention like they are getting. So yeah, I didn't really see this. You know, that's what makes the journey fun though. Like you look back at it like I do right now and I was like, holy shit, this was all to get experience for maybe what I'm going to do tomorrow or a year from now. And it really is that. Like I'm here right now speaking to you guys about content from me making gaming videos thinking that I was going to be one of those dudes and I'm not that guy, pal. So here I am now. But I learned a lot of stuff, man. It was a good run. It's still going.
Yeah, dude. I went to school for my story is like yeah, I never would have thought I'd end up on a Twitter space talking to some monkey JPEGs. Like I never ever would have anticipated that. I had an education background. I like tutored kids, and then I went to school for engineering, and all of a sudden I'm just doing Web3 full time, right? So it's so interesting to look back on, but you look at it now and you're like, it all makes sense, right? I found my wave, like maybe the vibrations of the universe just happened to line up, and I've kind of found myself. It's really interesting and it's really awesome. But I'm excited to see where we end up in a couple years. So this leads to my next question for you: is where do you think you might be like 3 to 5 years from now? Like, what do you think clouds will become?
Well, from my vision right now is mainly just trying to build a brand, build a name around myself. I might not have this PFP for, them whole 5 years, but I never knew where it would take me last year or the year before that. So right now is mainly just letting people know who I am in a way, maybe evolving my content over time. Right now it's informative. It's just trying to teach people the early stages of this because, everybody says it, you build in the bear. And that's what I'm kind of trying to do, but with myself rather than any other thing. So it's pretty interesting to just jump into it. Like I'm still right now, like I said, I haven't hit a year yet of even being in crypto or making crypto content. So I can't even tell you what I'm doing tomorrow, but some idea popped into my head. It might be the big boom for me, And a thing I like to carry on was making content is like it's like buying lottery tickets. Either one of your videos can just blow up and next thing you know you're known in the space for this exact reason. So always just be making some sort of good content because you don't want to be making a bad content video and that's what you're known for now.
Yeah, for sure. It is like a lottery ticket, right? Like if you do one bad thing and it goes viral, dude, that's your reputation now. Like you have no choice but to accept that. So you got to be careful. You got to curate your content. You got to make it resemble you ultimately. Because if any one of those pop off, you want that to be like embody you for sure. But Clouds, it's been an awesome conversation. I'm gonna ask you one last question, then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But thanks so much for all the wisdom you've been providing us about Web3 content creation, YouTube videos, your experience and your kind of growth. I think it's so awesome. You haven't even been here for a year and you're a very beloved part of the Web3 community. So once again, thank you so much for your time. I do know it's valuable. So I just wanted to mention that. But my final question for you is if you had to start over in Web3, like start from scratch, would you do anything differently?
Yeah, man, I would take my goddamn profits. That's all I can say, man. The profits, profits, profits. That's it. Don't fall, in love with your JPEG. Like is it can beat your ass. That's all I can say.
Dude, you're preaching to the choir, bro. I wish I'd been taking my profits. I would have been up tremendous. I would be chilling. Now it's a little rough out here. So I think yeah, that's definitely a fantastic
Yeah,
point.
man. We learned a lot from that experience as well. So that's something we can teach the new people jumping in. So that I kind of feel like we had to go through that to let the other people next to us, know that for sure.
Exactly right. It's part of what I was mentioning earlier. You can never see the dots moving, looking forward, but looking back, it all makes sense. Maybe we were meant to lose our bag so we could protect everyone else, or maybe I'm in denial. So who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows what it is?
maybe we're meant to lose our house as well for this.
Yeah, exactly. Foreclose on my home, get evicted. Like, yeah, the good old.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure,
but
bro. Like
clouds.
I wanted
Oh,
to ask you one thing actually before.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
You said you were currently doing this full time, and I am as well. So I want to know more of building that full time and trying to make it at least sustainable because I want to connect more with great people. And I love what you guys are doing here. So I as well want to connect with people doing this more full time content creation. You guys hit my avenue, so I would love to just learn more about what you guys are doing as well, and as well as what are you doing. Like I learned from people as well rather than just stick to myself. Like I want to listen out to other people because I'm still learning about content, still learning about Web3, and these are the perfect place to do that from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, for sure, man. So just a little bit about my story. I won't go too in depth about that because we'll save that for another time. But my name is HV Socrates. I am one of the couple co-founders of the Syndicate Network. What we are a project that is for creators by creators. What we plan on do is enabling people and giving them a platform to create their work and get it to the audience, right? Get it to their audience, get it to Web3, and spread the love, right? Because we originally were project owners. We created a project called High Voltage. High Voltage was the first Solana NFT to reward holders with Bitcoin mining profits. As project owners in that, it was an experience. Let me tell you, we learned a lot. We learned a lot about the bad about Web3. We learned a lot about the good about Web3. And from that experience, we've embraced it, and we want other people to be able to succeed where we failed, right? We want them to have a platform when we didn't, and we're creating something we wish we had when we were project owners. And that's the whole goal of Syndicate. That is what we are doing. And I'm so glad to have people like you, Clouds, to support us, and we support you, right? Because that's what this ecosystem is about. It's about bringing each other up, and that's what we're here for, to spread the love. So that's a little bit about me. My job is I'm kind of the community guy. I'm also kind of the Swiss Army knife. So I'm all over the place. You got me doing financial projections. You got me doing spaces like these. So that's a little bit about me for sure. But did that answer your question?
Yeah, bro, that's amazing. It's great to get to know you a bit more, and hopefully we can take this further with you know just getting on some calls and things like that, learning more.
Yeah, for sure, brother. We'll connect. But definitely, once again, I'll go ahead and wrap up the space. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you taking your time to learn more about me at the end, but mainly about Clouds and learning more about his journey in Web3 and what it means to be a Web3 creator. If you can, we will be having another. This is a daily space, and we will be having another space tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will be interviewing bot creator B Winkst. If you're interested in learning about him, he just got a bot approved, and he's partnered with Droid Capital. So he's been working on that for a while, and it's going to be really interesting talking to him about what he's got going on. So if you want to learn more about that, I pinned the space in the top. Please like, comment, retweet, and turn on notifications and reminders for that space, and you'll hear about me and be Winxed. But today was all about Clouds, and Clouds, thank you once again. I cannot say it enough. Thank you once again for being here. I appreciate your time so much. We will be posting all this stuff up sometime soon. We'll have a recording. We'll have an article about you, and we'll spread the love. So, any last words before I wrap it up?
No, bro. Thank you for hosting these spaces. I will for sure stay tuned into more, these spaces and learn from other people that you have on here. This is amazing. So keep at it. Everybody here is amazing. Appreciate it, and everybody have a good one.
For sure. Thank you so much, Clouds, and everyone. Have a safe and wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. See ya.